Okay, so George Washington bids farewell. He says, my time is done. I need to pass this on to somebody else. But before I go, if we want to keep this country great, this new American nation, here are some things that we need to remember and some things that I strongly encourage that you do going forward. So he gives this farewell speech, and it is one of the more talked about speeches and events in American history in terms of somebody giving advice. So one, he says, political parties are a bad idea. Right now, I see our country divided between Federalist and Democratic Republican. This is not good. So he said, I really recommend that you consider yourselves Americans, not one party or the other. Because as we see right now in 2021, there is a big divide in political parties. And there are some people who will flat out disregard anything that one person says just because they identify as a member of the opposite party. We see it between Republicans and Democrats, Democrats and Republicans today. Now, Thomas Jefferson, his Secretary of State, or his former Secretary of State, because he resigned during Washington's presidency, he agreed strongly with this and said, I think that political parties are probably troublesome and problematic. And so there were many Federalists and there were many Democratic Republicans who said, no, there's no way we can work with that group over there. They should agree with us. But Washington said, stay away from political division, stay away from identifying yourself as this group or that group, blend together and highlight some of the things that you do have in common. Another thing that Washington said was stay neutral, stay out of foreign affairs. Remember, we talked about he declared neutrality when Britain and France tried to get America to join their side in fighting against their enemy. And Washington said it's not in our best interest. And so Washington says not only should we stay out of other countries' issues unless it directly affects us, but we should also not make any permanent alliances. So George Washington said, don't make a deal with Britain and say we're going to be your ally for forever. Don't make a deal with France and say we're going to be your buds for all time. Make treaties, make deals that are going to be good for you right now, but don't necessarily lock yourself into a permanent alliance, because if you do that and you have to then go back against your word, people are going to remember that. So that's a good tip for us as well. Be careful when you say always or never, right? Because things change and we can't tell the future. And that's kind of what Washington was saying. He said that the government should have morals. So all the decisions that are made from our government, from a position of authority, should have a moral compass. So do what's right and not just what's right for you or what's right for the government. Do what's going to be the right thing to do. And we see that a lot in our own lives. If we find money lying on the ground, it might be good for us to keep that money, but the right thing to do is to check and see if somebody lost it, if somebody was missing it, because you never know, it could be somebody's last $20 that they had, or it could be $20 that somebody was going to use to spend on a loved one or their kid or their significant other. Okay, so relating that to government, Washington said our government should do the right thing and have a good moral compass. So while he didn't say that everybody should do what the Bible says or what other religious doctrines would say, he said just do the right thing. You understand as a person what's right and what's not right. Washington also encouraged the government to make money and don't get into more debt. So we can take that with our own lives today. Make more money than you are spending. Save some stuff. Think ahead and try and earmark, what should I save some money for? I might want to have some money set aside for this or for that. And so Washington is encouraging our government to do the same thing. Don't just say, oh, I got money, I'm going to spend it right now, unless what you're doing is you're investing and you're spending it to hopefully make more money in the long run. So again, make money, don't get into more debt. And one of the last things he talked about was don't have an overly powerful military. Have a military that's going to be strong enough to take care of the people and to defend the country. So again, we talk about in the preamble of the Constitution, one of the things it says is the government should provide for the common defense. So have a military that's strong enough to keep the people safe, but not to make the people fear the military. There are some countries where they use military force to basically force people of their own country to do whatever it is that they want done. And that's usually what we see from dictators. That's usually what we see from other government systems where it's one or a small group of people that kind of just took power with power and used their force and their might, as opposed to a democracy where those government systems try and do what's going to be best for the people. So again, those were just some of the main points of emphasis that George Washington talked about in his farewell address in 1796 when he stepped down as our first president of the United States of America.